Come to the next one. I'll read the passage. 20 years have passed between the birth of my dream. My dream means the author's dream. I, me, my refers, all these refer to the author. So 20 years passed between the birth of my dream to be a public speaker and the fulfillment of that dream. During that time, I experienced disappointments, frustrations, and to be honest, considerable discouragement. It's more than just a cliche to say that people with a dream keep going when the going gets tough. Not only did I have a dream, the dream had me. That calling was a motivating factor in my life, and I'll be forever grateful that the desire was so strong. I listened to other speakers when I had the opportunity. I read about speaking, I dreamed about speaking, I thought about speaking. And my imagination, which has always been very active, I saw myself standing in front of audiences that were cheering, applauding, and giving me standing ovations. In my imagination, I made literally hundreds of speeches, and every one of them was absolutely magnificent. I never stumbled, stuttered, or failed. So the passage talks about the author's dream of becoming a public speaker and the fulfillment of that dream. And there's a mention about the author's experiences during that period. So this is what the passage is about. That's the only thing we have to care about. Come to the questions now. The topic is mentioned. Since the birth until the fulfillment of the author's dream, his experience could be best described as. This is the topic of the question. The author's experience during that time, since the birth until the fulfillment of the author's dream. This topic is talked about in this sentence. So in fact, we need to focus only on this sentence to get the answer to that question. You forget about the rest of the passage. I'll start from the beginning anyway. 20 years passed between the birth of my dream to be a public speaker and the fulfillment of that dream. During that time, those 20 years, during that time, I experienced disappointments, frustrations, and to be honest, considerable discouragement. He experienced disappointments, frustrations, and considerable discouragement. That means the author had a negative experience, a positive experience. Discouragement, disappointments, frustrations. Undoubtedly, the author had a negative experience. Now come to the options. Some words are given as options here. Unpleasant meaning you know. Motivating meaning you know. Bemusing means confusing, puzzling, bewildering. Fantastic meaning you know. According to the passage, the author had a negative experience. Based on the charge, we can eliminate two options, and those two are B and D. Because motivating and fantastic are positive. So based on the charge itself, two options are eliminated. Now we have two options left, A and C. Bemusing means confusing, which does not fit this context at all. Based on that, C is eliminated. Now we have only one option left, option A, unpleasant. Come to the sentence in the passage once again. During that time, I experienced disappointments, frustrations, and considerable discouragement means the author had a pleasant experience or unpleasant experience. It is very clear that the author had an unpleasant experience. The answer must be option A. And unpleasant is negatively charged. UN is a negative prefix meaning not. So unpleasant means not pleasant. Unbelievable means not believable. Come to the next one. Which of the statements above can be correctly inferred? The topic of the question is not mentioned. The fifth type of question, we need to focus only on the sentence that talks about every option. Come to option 1. A genuine call can change one's life. A genuine call is general because a and an are indefinite articles taken as general. Can change one's life. One is the same as anyone, everyone. So one's life is the same as anyone's life or everyone's life, general. So option A is general. So we need to go back to the exact sentence in the passage that contains mention about call. The sentence that contains mention about call and life is the first sentence of the second paragraph. So we need to focus only on this sentence to know whether option 1 is correct or not. That calling is specific because that is a demonstrative pronoun taken as specific. This, that, these, those are demonstrative pronouns taken as specific. That calling was a motivating factor in my life. My life means whose life? The author's life, specific. So what is talked about call here is specific. What is talked about life here is also specific. Come to option 1 once again. A genuine call can change one's life. What is talked about call in the option is general. What is talked about life in the option is also general. General and specific will not go together. Based on that concept, option 1 is eliminated. So A and C are gone. Come to the second one. A dream, general, motivates a person, general, to achieve it even if it is hard to do the same. The meaning of this option, a dream motivates a person to achieve it even if it is hard to do the same. That means if a person has dream, he will not give up or surrender. He keeps going even though there are many barriers. Even though he comes across many barriers, he'll keep going till the time he is successful if he has got a dream. That is the meaning of this statement, and option 2 is general. The exact sentence in the passage that talks about option 2 is this one, the sentence starting with it's. It's more than just a cliche that people with a dream, it's not that people. That is not a demonstrative pronoun here. That is a relative pronoun here. He said that to say that, to tell him that is a relative pronoun, not a demonstrative pronoun. It's more than just a cliche that people with a dream, people is general, there also it is general, a person is general, people is general, a dream is also general, that people with a dream keep going when the going gets tough. It means people who have dream keep going even though the going gets tough. It means even if it is difficult to move forward, they keep going if they have a dream. Now come to option 2 once again. A dream motivates a person to achieve it even if it is hard to do the same. Even if it is hard to do the same is the same as when the going gets tough. Even if it is hard to do the same is the same as when the going gets tough. Tough is the same as hard. Tough and hard are synonyms. So general and general go together. The meaning remains the same. Option 2 must be considered. Based on that, Delhi is eliminated. The answer must be option 2. Getting it? Come to next one. The topic is mentioned here. To pursue his dream, the author. That means what did the author do to pursue his dream, to follow his dream? This is talked about in the second paragraph, starting from here. I listened to other speakers and find out exactly which part of the passage talks about it. I listened to other speakers when I had the opportunity. I read about speaking. I dreamed about speaking. Come to the options given. Read about speaking is given there in this passage. It says, I read about speaking. Option 1 also says the same, read about speaking. I refers to the author. The author read about speaking. 1 must be considered. Based on that, option B is eliminated. Come to listen to other speakers. It is also given here. I listen to other speakers. So option 2 must also be considered. Based on that, A is gone, C is also gone. We have only one option left, option D. We have one more option given here. We'll check that. PRACTISCD, practice, because it's a verb. The author practiced speaking. Now, practice speaking, the author practiced speaking. This sentence in the passage says, in my imagination, I made literally hundreds of speeches and every one of them was absolutely magnificent. From this statement, did the author practice speaking? No, it happened in his imagination. That means he did not practice speaking. This happened in his imagination. So 3 cannot be agreed to, eliminated. The answer must be option D, 1 and 2. Clear? Come to the next one. I'll read the passage. The thing the time traveler held in his hand was a glittering metallic framework, scarcely larger than a small clock and very delicately made. And now I must be explicit, for this that follows, unless his explanation is to be accepted, is an absolutely unaccountable thing. He took one of the small octagonal tables that was scattered about the room and set it in front of the fire with two legs on the hearthrug. On this table he placed a mechanism. The only other object on the table was a small shaded lamp, the bright light of which fell upon the model. There were also perhaps a dozen candles about, 2 in brass candlesticks upon the mantel and several in sconces, so that the room was brilliantly illuminated. I sat in a low armchair nearest the fire, and I drew this forward so as to almost between the time traveler and the fireplace. We were all on the alert. It appears incredible to me that any kind of trick, however subtly conceived and however adroitly done, could have been played upon us under these conditions. So the passage talks about the time traveler and his glittering metallic framework. The time traveler drew a table, he lit some candles, he kept the mechanism on the table, and the author was sitting there watching all this. Was the author the only spectator, or some other spectators were also there? The last part of the passage says, we were all on the alert. We were all on the alert means the author was not the only spectator, some other spectators were also there. Similarly, the last part says, however adroitly done, could have been played upon us under these conditions. So the author was not the only spectator. Now, was the time traveler performing magic? No, he was not performing magic. He was doing some kind of an experiment. He was showing some kind of an experiment to the author and the others. That's what the passage tells us. Come to the first question. It can be inferred from the passage that the time traveler did all the preparation, because all the preparation means like drawing the table, keeping the framework on the table, lighting the candles and all those things. So these are the preparations done by the time traveler. Come to option 1. He wanted to perform magic. It is actually not magic. It was some kind of an experiment. The time traveler was trying to show the author and the others. So option A is eliminated. Come to B. He wanted to sit near the fireplace. There's no need for him to take a table, keep the mechanism on the table, light some candles, to sit near the fireplace. Not talked about in the passage. Option B is eliminated. Now we have 2 options left. He wanted to show his skill. He wanted to show the others that he was not performing a trick. I'll come back to these 2 options after discussing the next question. Come to the next one. With reference to the passage, consider following statements. The topic of the question is not mentioned. The 5th type, we're going to focus on a sentence that talks about every option. Come to statement 2. The only object on the table was a time traveler's mechanism. The only object on the table was a time traveler's mechanism. This is talked about in this sentence. The only other object on the table was a small shaded lamp. The only other object on the table was a small shaded lamp. It says, on this table he placed his mechanism, the glittering metallic framework. On this table he placed a mechanism. The only other object on the table was a small shaded lamp. From this sentence, how many objects were there on the table? 2 objects. One is a time traveler's mechanism. The other one is a small shaded lamp. So according to a sentence in the passage, on the table there were 2 objects. Option 2 says, the only object on the table was a time traveler's mechanism. 2 is incorrect according to a sentence in the passage. 2 is eliminated. Based on that, B and C are gone. Come to option 1 now. The author believed that there might be an adverse effect of the time traveler's trick on him. The mention about trick, actually one sentence we talked about only in one option. One option we talked about only in one sentence. The mention about trick comes only in this sentence. Nowhere in the passage we find, nowhere else in the passage we find mention about trick. Mention about trick comes only in the last sentence, and option 1 talks about trick. So know whether option 1 is correct or not. Compare it only with the last sentence. I'll read option 1 once again. The author believed that there might be an adverse effect of the time traveler's trick on him. Time traveler's trick means it is very specific. The trick belongs to the time traveler. So time traveler's trick means undoubtedly it is very specific. Come to the sentence in the passage that contains mention about trick. The last statement. It appears incredible to me that any kind of trick. Any is a general word. I gave in the list of general words. So any kind of trick is general. Time traveler's trick is specific. General and specific will not go together. Based on that concept, option 1 is also eliminated. So A is also gone. The answer must be option D. Neither one, not. Now come to the statement once again. We were all on the alert. It appears incredible to me that any kind of trick could be played upon us. Any kind of trick means, was a time traveler performing a trick? No. I told you this in the basics part, if you remember. If I say go to any faculty, that means I am not a faculty. If I say go to any other faculty, that means I am also a faculty. Similarly, any kind of trick could have been played upon us means the author and the spectators. Any kind of trick could have been played upon us means the time traveler was not performing a trick. Any other kind of trick could have been played upon us means the time traveler was also performing a trick. Getting it? Now come to the options in question number 10, options that follow question number 10. Come to option D. He wanted to show others that he was not performing a trick. This is completely fine. The answer is D. Any kind of trick could have been played upon us means the time traveler was not performing a trick. It means the time traveler wanted to show the others that he was not performing a trick, so the answer must be D. Come to option C. He wanted to show his skill. Now, according to the passage, the time traveler is doing some kind of an experiment. An experiment cannot be called a skill. Now, we have done many experiments in physics lab, chemistry lab and all. Those cannot be termed as a skills actually. Now, if I sing or if I dance, that becomes my skill. So time traveler was just performing an experiment. An experiment cannot be called a skill. So he wanted to show his skill is eliminated. The answer must be D. 10th one is D. 11th one is also undoubtedly D. Clear? Come to question number 12. Why do you think the author said he needs to be explicit? The question starts with why. The very first type of question we discussed. If a question begins with why, or if there is a cause and effect indicated in the question, it means that the statement that is given in the question is the result. And the reason and the result must always come close to each other, can never get separated. Why do you think the author said he needs to be explicit? He is a pronoun antecedent. According to the question, the pronoun he refers to the author. According to the question, the pronoun he refers to the author. So according to the options as well, the pronoun he must refer to the author. According to the question, the pronoun he refers to the author, pronoun antecedent. So according to the options as well, he must refer to the author. Clear? The statement given in the question is, he needs to be explicit. He refers to the author. That means the author needs to be explicit. So this is the result according to the question. And our task is to find out the reason to this result. We'll go back to the exact sentence in the passage where we find mention about this result. This result is talked about in this sentence. And now I must be explicit for that follows. I must be explicit. I refers to the author. Must is a model. Needs to is also a model. So we have a model in the question. We have a model in the sentence in the passage. Needs to and must. These two are models. Must, should, have to, need to, ought to, has to, had to. So he needs to be explicit is the same as I must be explicit. So this is the result according to the question. And now I must be explicit for this that follows hyphen. A hyphen is an apposition, I told you. What comes after an apposition explains what comes before it. According to the sentence, what comes before the hyphen is the result of the question. So what comes after the hyphen must be the reason, that is the answer to this particular question. Because as I said, the reason and the result must always come together, close to each other. So the answer, the reason must be only this statement. unless his explanation is to be accepted is an absolutely unaccountable thing. This must be the answer. You forget about the rest of the passage. Unless his explanation, whose explanation? The time traveler's explanation. The author will not use the word his to refer to the author himself in the passage. I, me or my refers to the author. So his explanation means the time traveler's explanation. Unless his explanation is to be accepted is an absolutely unaccountable thing. Now come to the options. How many options contain mention about the word explain, explanation? Only 2 options contain mention about the word explain. Options 1 and option 1 and option D. Based on that, B and C are eliminated. Clear? Compare only that statement with the options. Now we have 2 options left, A and D. According to the question, the pronoun he refers to the author. So according to the options, also the pronoun he must refer to the author. Why do you think the author said he needs to be explicit? He refers to the author. Come to option A. The thing. The thing means the glittering metallic framework. The thing he wanted to explain was esoteric. Esoteric means like strange, right? The strange thing, rarely found, etc. The thing he wanted to explain. According to the question, I repeat, he refers to the author. So according to the options also, he must refer to the author. So I am replacing he with the author. The thing the author wanted to explain. Now the thing means the glittering metallic framework. The author wanted to explain the glittering metallic framework, or the time traveler wanted? The time traveler wanted to explain the thing, not the author. Option A is gone. The answer must be option D. Now come to D. He wanted. I am replacing he with the author. He wanted to be able to explain the incident as it happened. The whole incident is narrated to us by the author. This is what happened. The whole incident is narrated to us by the author. The answer must be option D. Unless his explanation is to be accepted is an absolutely unaccountable thing. The author wanted to be able to explain the whole incident as it happened. The complete narration is made by the author. The answer must be D. Clear? Come to the next passage. It was in June of 1935, I, the author, I came home from South America for a stay of about 6 months. It had been a difficult time for us out there. Like everyone else, we had suffered from world depression. I had various affairs to see to in England that I felt could only be successful if a personal touch was introduced. I need hardly say that one of my actions on reaching England was to look up my old friend Hercule Patriot. I found him installed in one of the newest type of service flats in London. I accused him of having chosen this building entirely on account of geometrical appearance and proportions. But yes, my friend, it's of a most pleasing symmetry. Do you find it so? I said I thought there could be too much squareness, alluding to an old joke. I asked if in this supermodern building they managed to induce hens to lay squared eggs. So passage tells us that the author came back from South America for a stay of about 6 months. And there's a mention about the author's situation there in South America. And one of the things he does after coming back is visiting one of his friends. And there's a mention about the apartment where his friend stays. So this is what the passage is about. Come to the first question. The topic of the question is mentioned here. How has the author described his condition in South America? This is the topic of the question. How has the author described his condition in South America? This topic is talked about in the second sentence of the passage. So we need to focus only on this sentence to get the answer to that question. Forget about the rest of the passage. Anyway, I'll start from the beginning once again. It was in June of 1935 that I came home from South America for a stay of about 6 months. It had been a difficult time for us out there. Out there means in South America. It had been a difficult time for us out there. This is what the situation of the author was. This is what the situation of the author was in South America. Come to the options now. Pathetic, eliminated. Sad, eliminated. Truculent means like ready to fight, quick to argue. Eliminated. The answer must be D. I can easily say that the answer is D because the synonym of difficult is tough. The synonym of difficult is tough. It has been a difficult time for the author out there in South America. That means he had a tough time in South America. The answer must be D. Going for the synonym, we got the answer. Come to the next one. Which of the statements given above is so are correct? The fifth type of question, the topic is not given. We're going to focus on a sentence that talks about every option. Come to option 1. The author suffered from world depression. So this sentence talks about world depression. The author suffered from world depression. World depression is talked about in this sentence. So we're going to focus only on this statement to get the answer to this question, to know whether option 1 is correct or not. Like everyone else, we had suffered from world depression. Now if I say, we are in the classroom. We are in the classroom. From this, am I in the classroom? Yes. Only if I am in the classroom, I can say we are in the classroom. If I am not in the classroom, I should say they are in the classroom. Now I can use the word we only if I am included in it. If I am not included in it, I should use the word they. Similarly, the author said, like everyone else, we had suffered from world depression. From this statement, did the author suffer from world depression? Yes. As the author used the word we, it is very clear that the author suffered from world depression. That is exactly what option 1 says. 1 must be considered. If option 1 is this way, only the author suffered from world depression, then 1 cannot be agreed to, eliminated. Here 1 is completely fine. Based on that, B and D are eliminated. Now come to the second one. The author disliked the service flat where his friend was staying. The author disliked the service flat where his friend was staying. This is talked about in this sentence. I accused him of having chosen this building entirely on account of. On account of is a cause and effect indicator, connecting a reason and a result. I gave you the list of cause of indicators. You should by heart the list of indicators and never miss any indicator while reading. I accused him of having chosen this building entirely on account of. Entirely on account of means only because of. Only because of geometrical appearance and proportions. I accused him of having chosen this building only because of, entirely on account of geometrical appearance and proportions. According to the sentence, what is the only thing that the author dislikes? The only thing that the author dislikes according to this sentence is geometrical appearance and proportions. This is the only thing that the author dislikes, because he accused his friend of having chosen this building only because of geometrical appearance and proportions. That means the only thing that the author dislikes is geometrical appearance and proportions. Option 2 says, the author disliked the service flat where his friend was staying. So according to the option, the author disliked the service flat. According to the sentence of the passage, the author disliked only geometrical appearance and proportions. Now when you compare option 2 with the sentence of the passage, which is general, which is specific? Option 2 becomes general, he disliked the service flat. The sentence of the passage becomes specific because he disliked only geometrical appearance and proportions. This becomes specific. General and specific will not go together. Option 2 is eliminated. Based on that, C is also gone. The answer must be option A. 1 only. Getting it? The next one. Why do you think starts with why? Why do you think the author mentions square x in his conversations? This is the topic of the question. And with the mention about this topic, square x comes in the last paragraph. So we need to focus only on this part of the passage to get the answers. Forget about the rest of the passage. Right? Come to option 1. He thinks, he refers to the author, because as per the question, he must be author. He thinks it is not feasible to live in a modern building. A modern building is general because a is an indefinite article taken as general. A and an are indefinite articles taken as general. He thinks it is not feasible to live in a modern building. come to this part of the passage. But yes, my friend, it is of a modest, pleasing symmetry. Do you not find it so? I said that I thought there could be too much squareness, alluding to an old joke. I asked if in this super modern building, this super modern building is very specific because this is a demonstrative pronoun taken as specific. Option 1 says a modern building, general. The sentence passage says this super modern building specific. General and specific will not go together. Based on that concept, option 1 is eliminated. So A and C are gone. Come to option 2. He was alluding to a joke. A joke is general. A is an indefinite article. Right. Come to the sentence passage once again. I said that I thought there could be too much squareness. Alluding. Now, alluding means like indirectly referring to something in indirect manner. Alluding to an old joke. An is an indefinite article taken as general. So a is general, an is also general. Alluding to an old joke. And there may be only a slight difference between the meaning of the option and the meaning of a sentence in the passage. You must be able to identify the slight differences in fact the nuances. Come to option 2 once again. He was alluding to a joke. The sentence in the passage says, I thought there could be too much squareness, alluding to an old joke. Option 2 says a joke. The sentence in the passage says an old joke. Now decide. Joke, old joke, which is general, which is specific. A joke becomes general, an old joke becomes specific. General and specific will not go together. Based on that, 2 is also eliminated. So Bombay is also gone. The answer must be option D. Neither one, not two. Getting it? Right. Come to the next passage. I'll read the passage. The kite fighting tournament was an old tradition in Afghanistan. It started early in the morning on the day of the contest and didn't end until only the winning kite flew in the sky. I remember 1 year, flew in the sky, full stop. Oh no, hyphen, yeah, apposition. I remember 1 year. So what is there before the apposition? Before the hyphen is being explained by what is there after the hyphen. I remember 1 year the tournament outlasted daylight. Means it didn't end until only the winning kite flew in the sky. I remember the tournament outlasted daylight. People gathered on sidewalks and roofs to cheer for their kids. The streets filled with kite fighters jerking and tugging on their lines, squinting up to the sky, closing one eye, trying to gain position to cut the opponent's line. Every kite fighter had an assistant, and in my case, Hassan, who held the spool and fed the line. One time a bratty Hindi kid, bratty means like talkative, naughty. One time a bratty Hindi kid whose family had recently moved into the neighborhood told us that in his hometown kite fighting had strict rules and regulations. You have to play in a boxed area and you have to stand at a right angle to the wind, he said proudly. And now you can't use aluminium to make your glass string. Hassan and I looked at each other, cracked up. Cracked up means I started laughing. The Hindi kid would soon learn what the British learned early in this century and what the Russians would eventually learn by the late 1980s, that Afghans are independent people. This is what the British learned early in the century and the Russians would eventually learn by the late 1980s. What they learn is given after the apposition, colon. And what they learn is that Afghans are independent people. They cherish custom and abhor rules. And so it was with kite fighting. The rules were simple, no rules. Fly a kite, cut the opponents, good luck. The whole passage talks about kite fighting in Afghanistan. And the passage tells us that Afghans don't follow any rule while going for kite fighting. Hassan is the author's assistant according to the passage. So once a bratty Hindi kid, a talkative Hindi kid, told the author and Hassan about kite fighting with rules in his hometown. Listening to the words of the bratty Hindi kid, the author and her son start laughing because in Afghanistan they don't follow any kind of rules. The only rule they follow is no rules. Fly a kite, cut the opponents, good luck. So the whole passage talks about kite fighting in Afghanistan. Come to the first question. The topic of the question is mentioned here. People gathered on the roofs to, this is the topic of the question. So people gathered on the roofs is the topic of the question. And this topic is mentioned in this sentence. So we need to focus only on this sentence to get the answer. You forget about the rest of the passage. People gathered on sidewalks and roofs to cheer for their kids. So they have gathered there to cheer for their kids. Come to the first option. Take part in the kite fighting, not given there in that sentence. Option 1 is eliminated. So A and C are gone. Come to cheer for the participants. I repeat, we can understand whether an option is general or specific only when we compare the option, the sentence that talks about it. Cheer for the participants means cheer for all the participants. The sentence the passage says, they have gathered there to cheer for their kids. That means they did not gather there to cheer for all the participants. They gathered there to cheer for their kids. Now compare option 2 with this sentence. According to option 2, they've gathered there to cheer for the participants. That means all the participants. According to the sentence in the passage, they've gathered there to cheer for their kids. Cheering for the participants, cheering for their kids. Which is general, which is specific. Cheering for the participants, all the participants becomes general. Cheering for their kids becomes specific. General and specific will not go together. 2 is also eliminated. So Bombay is also gone. The answer must be D. If I say two persons are wrestling, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I say I cheer for the wrestlers. I cheer for the wrestlers means both the wrestlers. If I say I like Shawn Michaels. So I cheer for my wrestler means who is Shawn Michaels. I cheer for my wrestler, I cheer for the wrestlers, the meanings are completely different. I cheer for the wrestlers becomes general. I cheer for my wrestler becomes specific. The same is the case here. According to option 2, they cheered for their participants. For the participants, all the participants. According to the sentence of passage, they were gathered there to cheer for their kids becomes specific. So general and specific will not go together. That is also eliminated. The answer is option D, neither one, not. Come to the next one. Which of the statements given above is so are correct? The fifth type, the topic is not mentioned. Kite fighting is a popular sport worldwide. We know that. But the passage doesn't talk about kite fighting worldwide. It talks only about kite fighting in Afghanistan. So option 1, when compared to the passage, becomes general. Kite fighting worldwide becomes general. Kite fighting in Afghanistan becomes specific. General and specific will not go together. We are talking only about kite fighting in Afghanistan here. So general and specific will not go together. Option 1 is eliminated. Based on that, A and C are gone. Now come to option 2. Afghans hate rules. Afghans hate rules. Come to the sentence in the passage. This part. That Afghans are independent people. They cherish custom. They is a pronoun. The concept of pronoun antecedent, every pronoun must refer to a noun before it. They is a plural pronoun, so it can refer only to a plural noun. The plural noun coming before they is Afghans. So Afghans are independent people. They cherish custom. We can replace they with Afghans. They cherish custom means Afghans cherish custom. Afghans cherish custom and abhor rules. Abhor is the same as hate. So a bit of vocabulary comes here. Abhor is a negative word because AB is a negative prefix. So abhor rules means hate rules. So Afghans hate rules. That's exactly what option 2 tells us. Afghans hate rules. 2 must be considered. Based on that, Delhi is eliminated. The answer must be B, 2. A bit of vocabulary came to help here. The next one. According to the passage, why did the author and her son crack up? The question started with why. The very first type of question, the statement given in the question is the result. The reason and the result must come together, close to each other. Why did the author and Hassan crack up? The statement given in the question is, the author and Hassan crack up. So this is the result according to the question. And our focus must be only on the statement that comes close to this result. We'll go back to the exact part if I mention about this. This is talked about in this context. Hassan and I looked at each other, cracked up. So this is the result according to the question. I'll focus only on the part of the passage that comes close to this result. It says, a bratty Hindi kid who had family fun. You have to play in a boxed area and you have to stand at a right angle to the wind, he said proudly. He means the bratty Hindi kid. And you can't use aluminium to make your glass string. These are the words of the bratty Hindi kid. And the bratty Hindi kid is talking about kite fighting with rules. And you can't use aluminium to make your glass string. Hassan and I looked at each other, cracked up, started laughing. So when the bratty Hindi kid was talking about kite fighting with rules, Hassan and the author cracked up. So the statement that comes close to the result is this part, and these are the words of the bratty Hindi kid. The bratty Hindi kid was talking about kite fighting with rules, and when the author and Hassan listened to the bratty Hindi kid's words about kite fighting with rules, both of them started laughing. So the reason why they started laughing according to the passage is listening to the bratty Hindi kid's words about kite fighting with rules. This must be the answer. Come to option A. They, according to the passage, they must, according to the question, they must refer to the author and Hassan, because the nouns mentioned in the question are the author and Hassan. So they in the option must refer to the author and Hassan. They means the author and Hassan. They were amused by the idea of kite fighting with rules. This is completely fine. The bratty Hindi kid was talking about kite fighting with rules, and that is the reason why they started laughing. The author and Hassan started laughing, listening to the words of the bratty Hindi kid. They were amused by, the author and Hassan were amused by the idea of kite fighting with rules. What is the meaning of getting amused? What is the meaning of amusement park? Now, when you go to an amusement park, we have many rides there which are not common to us at all, which are very rare to us. We don't find it daily. We don't go for such rides daily. Once in a while, very rarely we go for such rides. And when we do something that is not common to us, we get some kind of happiness. That happiness is called amusement. The author and Hassan are not used to kite fighting with rules in Afghanistan. When the bratty Hindi kid was talking about kite fighting with rules in his hometown, the author and Hassan got amused and they started laughing. One is completely fine, and this is a statement coming close to the result. Undoubtedly, one must be considered. They were amused by the idea of kite fighting with rules. A is fine, 1 is fine. Based on that, B and D are eliminated. Now come to option 2. They, referring to the author and Hassan. They cherish custom. That means the author and Hassan cherish custom. According to the passage, they refers to Afghans. Afghans cherish custom. Author and Hassan cherish custom. Afghans cherish custom. Which is general, which is specific? The author and Hassan becomes specific. Of the Afghans becomes general. General and specific will not go together. That is one reason. One more reason. This is not the statement coming close to the result. I told you the reason and the result can never get separated, must always come close to each other. That is another reason to eliminate option 2. So 2 is gone. Based on that, C is also eliminated. The answer must be option A. The author and Hassan were amused by the idea of kite fighting with. Clear?